Join us today on our start of the deep dive into the BattleTech factions. Welcome back to all you loyal followers out there, all 60 some odd of you at this particular moment in time.
Look, we're up to 60 some odd.
63 as of earlier today. A lot of views, but that's how many subscribers we got. So, and thank you for those of you who have subscribed.
Yes, thank you a lot.
And thank you for those of you who are just watching, and commenting. So today, we are going to, this is going to be part one of a several part series where we're going to go into the various factions of the BattleTech universe. Now, this is going to be kind of an overview to kind of prep for the actual videos, where each successive video is probably going to cover one faction. It's possible some of the clans are going to be folded in together because some of them don't have a whole lot of character about them.
And some of them are absorbed by other clans?
Yes, some of them were literally absorbed by some of the others. So we have that, and some of the mercenaries might end up being kind of conglomerated together.
There's just too little about them, I assume.
There's too little about them, and there's too many of them. So,
but I'm sure, like, the big name mercenaries will have
video. I mean, like the Highlanders, the Kellhounds, the Wolfstragoons, they'll have their own videos. But like Team Bonsai,
what?
They might be like just kind of lumped in with someone else. Maybe, I don't know.
Buckaroo Bonsai's in BattleTech?
There's a Team Bonsai anyway, and it's the backwards bees, supposedly led by a genius scientist inventor type. So yeah, kind of.
Does he have a cowboy surgeon with him?
Probably.
It's probably piloting a cattleman.
It's probably as close as copyright protection will allow.
So like everything else in BattleTech.
like several other things in BattleTech.
Okay.
So before we begin, I do want to reiterate, for those of you who have come from other games, like Warhammer in particular, you do not have to choose any of these factions we're going to talk about as far as playing the game itself. This is meant as lore videos, but also, should you decide to choose a faction, to give you background on what your options are.
And we keep saying this in every video, we're not a BattleTech channel. We will be covering other stuff.
Yeah.
It just seems like most of the people out there want BattleTech from us at the moment.
Yeah, that's what our more popular videos seem to lean that way. So, and there's a lot to cover. So,
Yep.
And also tied into that, if anyone has any particular requests on the factions as we go through them, because my personal preference is going to be to kind of jump around instead of being like it's the 5 houses back to back to back to back to back, and then the clans, and then the mercenaries. I'd rather kind of mix it up so that in case you are a clan fan, you're not having to wait through all 5 of the houses and the mercenaries and companies and the Yakuza and whoever else we got here. Or if you are a mercenary fan, you're not having to wait through 5 houses, 20 clans, and who knows what else. This way, like, we'll hit a little.
What if you are a house fan?
Well, I mean, we're going to start with the houses because they're the dominant factions.
But I am going to give a prediction here, Bobby.
Sure.
First house we cover will be House Lau.
I don't know.
My preference, people, is House Cameron, because that's sort of where it starts.
Yeah, it just depends. We'll see if the folks have any particulars that they want to see covered first. I know we already have one vote for the Highlanders from one of our comments. So that's
Are
one
they
vote.
immortals?
No, but it was from the Highlander movie thing. But someone we kind of got sidetracked talking about the BattleTech Highlanders, and the comments spun out of that. So anyway, like I said, just remember, you don't have to pick these factions to actually play the game. And that's also something I'm kind of going to be covering here once we get like to the mercenaries and some of the other things. And also, just a little quick note, your game does not have to be bound by canon. This is very much like Dungeons and Dragons. It's a suggestion. Now the novels and the other books like these, obviously this is the canon, but your game doesn't have to be this. So just bear that in mind. If you want to make your own houses, if you don't even like the concept of houses, and it's just all-out warfare across 1,000 light years, like, you know, go for it. And in fact, there are a couple like official alternate universes, which we'll probably cover in another video. There's one real big kind of popular one. But yeah, we'll you know, cover that later on. So anyway, on to what we're going to cover here. This is mainly going to be an overview of the kind of factions that exist. So obviously you've heard us mention the houses and the clans. So the houses themselves, depending on what point in the timeline you're talking about, there are between 5 and 6 of them.
6?
I don't think Cameron and Arano ever overlapped. So I don't think they did. So I think it's a maximum of 6. It's just that
Wouldn't it
this
be
is
a
the extra-
minimum of 4?
No, because none of the 5 ever got destroyed.
The Federated Commonwealth, though.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess there was while they were fused together. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah.
I only know that because the best thing that happened to the FedCom was the FedCom Civil War, where House Steiner broke away. Smart on them.
Anyway, so the main 5 that I'm sure you've heard repeatedly, you know, House Steiner, Kirita, Davian, Lau, and Merrick. Now, from the beginning of the Star League up until the Amorous Coup, there is also House Cameron, which is over the Terran hegemony, and that's the people that kind of hold the Star League together. And then, thanks to the Harebrained Schemes game, there's also House Arano out in the periphery, and that is canon also. And then, as Chad mentioned, there is the Federated Commonwealth. And then there are several micro-states, but we're going to get into those kind of here on its own little thing here in a moment. So, with the houses, you have their primary armies. Okay, that's just like the army for each house. And they'll typically follow whatever the faction colors are. Like for House Kirita, it's going to be red. For House Lau, it's going to be what they call Lau green. Merrick's going to be purple. Steiner and Davian, I think, are both blue. Just with different kind of accents in them. So,
Davian copying Steiner once again.
so you have just your generic army. So that's an option. If you want to be like, I'm House Lau, but that's all the deeper you want to get, you know, or I'm House Kirita. Okay, you can stop right there. You don't have to go deeper. But if you want to, there are official color schemes for several commands within the army. Okay, so like for House Lau, there's like the Cyan Dragoons, and there's more than one Cyan Dragoon. There's like, I think there's 6 or 7 of them. There for the House Kirita, there's the 1st through 9th, I believe, Sword of Light commands, although they're painted almost identical. Again, back to House Lau, there are the warrior houses. For House Davian, there's all kinds of commands. For Steiner, there's all kinds of commands. You know, there's the Hesperus Guards. I want to say Endurian, but I know that's wrong because that's in House Merrick somewhere. And for House Merrick, you know, there's all kinds of various commands there.
Yeah,
And
usually each one led by their planet.
yeah, usually. So you have those, okay, and you can if you want, you can stop right there too. You know, you can be like, okay, so not only am I House Kirita, I'm specifically the 3rd Sword of Light. Okay. Now below them are the militia forces. Each planet has its own militia as well. And I believe they're separate from the commands because the commands are usually more mobile. So they're like the ones that actually go out and do the fighting, whereas the militia is the home guard. All right. Now, the militia forces for any given planet, they're going to have an ultra generic paint scheme. If it's a planet that's got a lot of woods, it's probably going to be woodland camouflage. If it's a desert, it's going to be desert camouflage. If they're meant to fight in the city, it's going to be a gray urban camouflage. There's not going to be really anything complicated to it. Now, depending on the scenario you're playing, though, if you're the defender, you potentially have your military forces, your specific command, and your militia forces all together. So if you really wanted to go in depth, you could have, at least 3 different paint schemes there, and that's before you even contemplate having mercenaries on your side. Or even in some cases, the police forces on some planets also have mechs, typically urban mechs, but they're still battle mechs.
Hey, don't diss on the urban mech.
I'm not going to diss on the urban mech.
You can put a nuke on that thing.
I know. So you also potentially, like I said, have the police forces, and then there's yet another layer. Most of the nobility that govern any individual planet, a lot of them have their own private armies, which are again separate from the militias and potentially separate from whatever command, so they can use them for their own little private settling of scores and attacking other border worlds and all kinds of stuff.
And for personal security.
Yes, and for personal
Never overlook that motorcade of one car driving down the road with 10 mechs around it.
Yeah. And then there's one step even beyond that. You also have the intel agencies. Loki, the ROM, the Death Commandos for House Lao. I don't know, aside from the Death Commandos offhand, how many of them typically use mechs and advertise that they're part of the intel services. But the Death Commandos do have a paint scheme, mainly because they're the strike fear in the hearts of all who come across the types.
Is it black?
Yes, it's
With
all
the skull
black.
face?
Yeah.
Like everyone puts on an atlas?
Yeah, but it's not up here. It's someplace else, and I believe the Lao crest somewhere as well. And so these guys, they're meant to be the elite of the elite, and they don't know fear. They will die to accomplish their mission without a second thought. And that's not just Lao propaganda.
That's not like brainwashing.
They're that good.
Dirty Laos, brainwashing soldiers.
So you have those groups within any given house. You have all of these things potentially that you can work with. Then you also have the corporations. Some of them are large enough that they have their own security forces, or they're run by people that have aspirations of somehow joining the nobility. And a major example of this came along in the Dark Age with a guy named Jacob Vanson, who had the group Vanson's Raiders. They were primarily mercenaries, and he bought up a bunch of battle mechs every place he could and cobbled together an army. And as I understand, it's a decent-sized army. And although in the fiction it turns out a fair number of his hirelings were actually Republic of the Sphere insiders keeping an eye on him. Why they felt the need to keep an eye on him instead of, I don't know, House Lao that was rolling like an unstoppable juggernaut towards them? You got me.
Or, Clan Wolf.
Yeah, I mean,
Clan Jade Falcon.
yes, there were any number of other far more important targets that
Russell Hog
should be
Dominion.
keeping their eyes on, but they didn't.
The ones who were aiming for Terra.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so you have some corporations. Predominantly, they're going to be ones that actually manufacture the battle mechs. And,
Ford, GMC, Chevrolet,
Yes.
Toyota.
Yes, if you look in the TROs, you'll notice there's definitely some familiar corporation names. They're still chugging along in the 31st century or 32nd century, depending on which time period.
Goodyear's probably still around.
Probably.
You gotta get those rubber soles for the battle mech somehow.
Yeah. The one you want to be sketchy about is Quicksell. It's right there in the name. Just be wary. So anyway, but like the companies that manufacture the battle mechs, obviously they have access to them because they make them. But they'll have their own private security forces for the factories themselves. Those, as far as I'm aware, don't have official colorations. So this is where you as a player, if you want to do that, like say, You want to do people that are guarding one of the factories on Hesperus 2, pick your own color scheme. Go for it.
What about Space AT&T? Do they have
Uh,
paint jobs for their
yes, yes, we'll get to them in just one moment. So then, like, one of the other kind of outliers is within House Kirita, the Yakuza are a thing, and they do have their own battle mechs and everything else. Yeah,
Please say they have a bunch of decal work on them.
Probably, I wouldn't be surprised.
Make them look like they're all tattooed up.
Yeah, I don't know the full story behind it, but I see comments online a lot of how it was definitely one of these numbers to try to explain where all of a sudden House Kirita got a bunch of battle mechs. So, yeah, those of you who couldn't figure that out, that's an asshole. So yeah, so you have the Yakuza.
But cool, we're not supposed to be cussing in these videos.
These aren't for kids.
Yeah, but YouTube still don't like the cuss.
As long as I put that it's not for kids, they don't care.
Oh, really?
As far as I can tell. So,
Yeehaw.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and cuss a blue streak or anything, but I know. I'm letting you down. But and so then
I want to follow Mafia 2's example.
So then you have the mercenaries. Mercenaries are inexplicably very numerous in the BattleTech universe. Given how rare battle mechs are, this shouldn't actually be the case, but it is. So there's all kinds of mercenary units. There are all kinds of cannon units of various sizes, and the mercenary units can be anything from some guy that has a drop ship and a couple platoons of infantry and some transports for him, to like the Wolf's Dragoons, who I think have a couple different commands within the Wolf's Dragoons because they're massive size. I think they even have a factory somewhere. Or a unit like McCarran's Armored Cavalry, which was already pretty big, but eventually just permanently signed up and became a house unit for House Lao. With part of it being they got a couple planets, they have some of their own factories, and they have relative free reign to attack enemies of the Confederation at their discretion.
Here's a question for you, Bobby, with the mercenaries.
Yeah.
Could you literally be like a lone mercenary on a planet?
You could.
Like just hiring yourself out to, say, local corporations, the planetary governor, for if someone's coming in to raid or try to capture the planet? Or...
You could, yes. In that position, I would imagine you're signing up to join up with a larger force, and they're just hiring individual mercenaries. Because one of the things that we've never even mentioned on here, there's a planet called Solaris 7, where they have battle mech gladiatorial combat. So that's also a potential recruiting ground for mercenaries. See people that do a lot of winning, that know how to maintain their machines and know how to fight. Be like, hey, you're making money here, but you want to make some real money? Like, come guard Cyan, the Golden Palace.
Come guard Hesperus 2's Ford factory.
Yeah.
For a year.
So you have that. There is a guy known as the Bounty Hunter. I don't know the full story behind the lore behind him, because there's some older novels I think that feature him. I've only mainly read the Dark Age novels, and it's definitely a different guy because they're very clear to spell out this is not the original bounty. This is not the original bounty hunter. But he is a solo act, and he has a very specific color scheme and uses specific mechs and has specific armor. And this guy acts as an assassin. I don't know if that's how the original acted. So, but yes, loaning like individuals is definitely a thing. So for mercenaries, the deal here though is this is where you as a player can just make up your own mercenary company. The composition, the background, the color scheme, all of it. That's your free reign to do that. And I'm sure that's why the next Kickstarter is focusing on mercenaries, because it gives the players a tremendous amount of agency. And yeah, I mean, any battle you can conceive of. You know, say your friends, you know, house loud, like, oh, we're mercenaries, been hired by the Republic of the Sphere, come to stop the assault, you know, or Hans Davian has decided that, you know, Melissa Steiner deserves a nice wedding present. Here we come, Maximilian Lau, you know, whatever. You know, it's third succession war.
I know.
Sorry, fourth succession war.
I know.
So yeah. So for the mercenaries, they're infinitely customizable. Okay. And so that's the huge part of the appeal for them. And then, as Chad mentioned, there's Comstar, which is essentially space AT&T, but with an army. They mainly go for white for their battle mechs. They have a very large army that people did not know about. Eventually they splinter into a sect of religious fanatics called the Word of Blake, who try to nuke everybody, and Comstar. So you get two divisions. The Word of Blake guys get all kinds of crazy mechs and cyborgs and all kinds of fun stuff. They also bring back the BattleTechs.
Land Air Max.
Land Air Max. I don't know why I can't remember the name of those things. It's so simple. Yeah, so they made the first new designs of those in forever. And some of the stuff that later on in the timeline the Republic of the Sphere uses is based on their research. I think the tripods are the super heavies and stuff. So
the Ares mechs.
Yeah. So you have them. Then you have a whole host of periphery powers. And with all of those, you're going to run into the same things you have with the houses. You're going to have their main army, you know, their planetary militias, their individual commands. So it's not just the 5 main houses. Like you have the Magistracy of Canopus, the Taurians, the Niops Confederation,
House Urano,
the House Urano, the Outworlds Alliance, briefly the Free Rasselhague Republic. It exists for a very brief moment in time.
not so free anymore.
After it breaks away from House Kurita, just before it gets devoured by Clan Ghost Bear. And then
To make the Rasselhague Dominion.
Yeah, which then they fuse together. There was the Hanseatic League. In the recent fiction, it was taken over by the Clan Goliath Scorpion, which is now known as the Scorpio Imperium.
Scorpio Imperium?
Yeah, they've actually got some interesting lore behind them. They're really obsessed with like relics and stuff from the Star League era, and so they try to find old battle mechs. And they basically were like realizing that the stuff was about to go down in the clan homeworlds, and they didn't want to be a part of it, so they skedaddled.
Smart move.
Yeah, so they just kind of set up out in the periphery where no one's going to bother them. So you have those powers. There's the St. Ives Compact, which breaks away from House Lau at one point, then eventually gets gobbled back up. And you just have a bunch of little micro-states.
What? Dirty Steiner traders.
Yes, in the current moment in time, in the vacuum left from where Clan Jade Falcon was, a few breakaway factions of House Steiner have started to set up shop, as well as some breakaway factions from Clan Jade Falcon. And Clan Hell's Horses is kind of eyeing the whole thing with, you know, intent. And then the actual, what's left of the real Jade Falcons is also planning on making a move. It's explored in the Tamar Rising source book. So if you want like current fighting like that, plus a whole host of other factions, if you ever thought to yourself, man, if only there was a faction that had Steiner and Clan Jade Falcon mechs, the Tamar Pact is for you. Chad is figuring out what one of my faction colors is eventually going to be right at this moment.
Green, yeah.
No, the Tamar Pact is not green.
You said they have Jade Falcon mechs.
They do, but they repaint them.
What?
Their colors are, I believe it's black, and it's either deep orange or red. So,
I could get behind that colors.
yeah, I think it looks nice.
I just prefer blue.
And then, well, there's always Duke Vidette, the former Duke of Hesperus II, the former Archon who escaped with his life and is now setting up shop elsewhere.
No, Steiner.
Also, I haven't read the last book with him, but based on the comments, apparently Comstar is not quite as destroyed as we've been led to believe. So
Look, I don't think Space AT&T would be destroyed.
Supposedly they were by the Republic at some point. So, so you've got the microstates, the various little factions pop up here and there. The Free Worlds League at one point kind of dissolved into the component groups. So you had the various factions there, although by the time of the Dark Age, they do recoalesce. And then
That's sort of like norm for the free world leagues.
yeah, and then you have a period of about 60 or 80 years where the Republic of the Sphere exists. It's on Earth and everything within 100 light years. Then once the blackout occurs, and they're gonna have like they have their main army. There are individual knights who answer to I can't think of what their leader is called off the top of my head. Should have written that down. But they have individual knights and paladins, and this is a whole like kind of medieval setup to the whole deal. And they answer directly to the Exarch. That's who leads them. Directly to the Exarch, and they are made up of forces from several of the other factions that came together to destroy the Lord of Blake. And then they forcibly took the planets within that range. House Lao was not happy with what they lost. And they have since reclaimed it and are now at Terra's doorstep. So the blackout occurred, a bunch of micro factions appeared, basically people rallying around the old flags, but not the full forces. So like instead of Clan Wolf, it was the Steel Wolves. Instead of House Steiner, it was the Stormhammers. And most of those groups have since been reabsorbed into their larger factions. But for a brief moment there, you've got a whole bunch of other choices on factions. That's the beginning of the Dark Age setting. And but the current moment, most of the Republic worlds have fallen to either one of the surrounding powers, mostly Houses Lao and Kurita, and then Clan Jade Falcon and Clan Wolf drove to Terra, defeated the Republic, and then Clan Wolf defeated Clan Jade Falcon for all the marbles. So now Clan Wolf is the Ill Clan at the moment. And it's to be determined which of the clans and on what level are going to acknowledge that, but you know, you have that. So there's more faction possibilities there. And then that's excuse me. That is most of your options in the inner sphere. Then you have the clans themselves, which started off with 20 clans. Very shortly after that, there were only 19 of them, as Clan Wolverine was destroyed.
Simply because they needed an example.
Yeah, there was definitely some shenanigans. So they were destroyed. A few others have been absorbed.
Assumedly destroyed.
Yeah. Yes, there's potential that they are what is known as the Minnesota tribe, which is a whole backstory there that I don't know half of, and so I'm not even going to try to explain here. But just know that a lot of people think there's remnants of them still out there. Some people think they were the Lord of Blake. You know, there's a lot of theories, probably never going to get any answers. It's one of those things that BattleTech authors love to do, is throw things out like that and never, ever answer them. So you, the players, can answer them. So anyway, the clans, they're far more formalized, so you're not going to find like nobility among the clans. So there's no private armies, there's none of that business. The clans have the army for each of the clans, which is divided up among the various commands. They do have intel agencies and police, because there is a 2C variant of the Urban Mech, because the clans realized it was useful. And then there's what they call the Dark Caste, which those are clanners who have broken clan law and have been cast out. Basically, they're like shoot on sight for other clanners. Although you dig deep enough into the clans, you realize that there's clan propaganda for how the clans work, and then there's how the clans actually work, which is someone somewhere in the clans knows some people in the criminal underworld, who knows some people in the Dark Caste, and they can pass some orders along, and you know, some things that need to happen in the shadows can happen.
But I'm going to also assume there's, hey, that person got kicked out of Clan Jade Falcon. Clan Wolf, let's recruit them.
Yes, people do move between the clans via various what they call trials. Like a trial of absorption is to absorb part of a clan. Trial of annihilation. If your clan loses that, basically everyone has a target on their back once you lose. Although in practice, what actually happens is the other clans will swoop in and try to grab the people and equipment and everything through various other trials. But that's how they settle things.
Trial of possession, isn't it?
Yeah. So
which can be fought over DNA.
Yes, that's very important. So as the timeline progresses, there are fewer clans. After the invasion, the Smoke Jaguars are destroyed by the Inner Sphere.
Proper example: hammer and anvil people, obliteration.
And then going forward a little bit more, the clans that remained in the clan homeworlds become convinced that the clans that invaded the Inner Sphere have been tainted by the people from the Inner Sphere, who they refer to as spheroids.
To give the homeworld clans a little bit of leeway, some of them have been.
They weren't entirely wrong.
Yes.
So some of the clans saw the writing on the wall and made a move. Clan Ghost Bear, I believe, had already basically moved all their stuff out. Clan Wolf saw it coming, took everything from their genetic repository, and then destroyed it as a giant middle finger to the other clans. They also stole one of the prized warships that was in orbit over Astronomecti, the clan homeworld. And so then the few clans that were left, after they destroyed what was left of like the other clans that had come to the Inner Sphere, the ones that didn't make it out in time, because most of them pulled up stakes and ran for it.
Clan Sea Fox made it out.
Yeah, so like Sea Fox, the Wolves, the Ghost Bears, the Jade Falcons, the Hell's Horses, and then eventually Clan Goliath Scorpion. They took what they could and moved to the Inner Sphere, and they went for total commitment. The ones that were left eventually turned on each other, and
Purity Wars.
Yeah, and so then they really went at it. And that was roughly 80 years ago in the timeline, it's covered in a book called The Wars of Reaving, which is an excellent source book if you can get your hands on it. The other one, just a little note here, because we might not do another video on this. If you really want to know about like the beginnings of the clans, Operation Klondike is the source book you want. It is also excellent. But we might do videos on those because they are very good source books. So anyway, no one has any idea what's happened to those clans since then. So that was 80 years ago.
Could have been bombed completely out of existence.
Yeah, I mean there
could be there's one mega clan left that's going to come swooping in, and
could be one massive clan. Could be that it's nothing but radioactive cinder out there. Could be the bird people from Far Country finally built battle mechs and came and attacked them.
What?
The bird people from Far Country, the Tetat, I don't know how to pronounce it.
I thought there wasn't aliens in BattleTech.
It's the one lone exception to this. It was a book. The ship misjumped. I don't think they even know where they wound up in the galaxy, or even if they're in the same galaxy anymore. And they come across somewhat sentient bird people. So.
How long ago in lore was this?
It was a while ago. Like that ship was never heard from again. So they did not make it back. So yeah, that's the one. That was like the one kind of experiment with that. It did not work. So most people tell you avoid the book Far Country. I've never read it. I just know the memes about it. But yeah, so that is that's in a nutshell all of your options. And there's probably others. Like I said, you can make your own stuff up if you want to. But per canon, you have a lot of choices.
Here's a question for you, Bobby.
And not all those have official paint schemes, so you can just go to town on a lot of them.
The clans, do they employ mercenaries?
Generally speaking, no. The pure clans do not. However, the ones in the Inner Sphere, particularly Clan Wolf, did bring the Dragoons along on the trip to Terra. I have not read the book. However, I'm given to understand that once everything was done, old Ulrich paid them literally 30 pieces of silver and told them to get out. I assume you understand the reference there.
Yes. I'm just trying to figure out his thinking there.
A lot of people are assuming he wasn't, because obviously the Dragoons are going to be pissed off about this and are going to come back.
And Wolf's Dragoons were originally part of Clan Wolf.
Yes.
They were the scouting force for the invasion.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of those, like, Ulrich has made some moves that were probably going to come back to bite him in the butt at some point. That's probably one of them. So,
I'm changing what my favorite clan is now.
So there you have it, folks.
What clan uses the color blue?
The Sea Fox does.
I'll go with them.
Oh, yeah. One little tiny weird lore tidbit. One of the clans, Clan Sea Fox, is alternately known as Clan Diamond Shark at various points in the lore. I don't recall what the change is supposed to represent, but it flip-flops. So they are the same clan. They're Clan Walmart.
Yes. They will sell you anything and everything for the right price.
Yeah. But it occurs to me, I have forgotten one recently emergent individual / group. You remember one of the other videos I mentioned that House Kirita killed the Space Pope on New Avalon?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I was surprised that there's a Space Pope.
Apparently the Space College of Cardinals has gotten together and elected a new pope, and he is a battle pope. Goes into battle on a battle mech. I don't know if he has a big funny hat or not, but
That battle mech better have a big funny hat.
I expect it's really just a Games Workshop model, but
No. You take an Atlas.
not for proprietary reasons, but just
You take an Atlas, and then you take one of the funny hats from Warhammer 40K and you put on.
Yeah, probably.
That's what you do. There's your space battle pope.
So I assume he has a following as well.
Well,
so we'll read up on him before we do a video about that to get all our facts straight.
It's like our Pope, our Earth Pope, with the big funny hat and the big collar thing.
Yeah.
Mantle. It's a mantle. He's going to have an army.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Highly trained and, like, especially regarding stuff.
Space Swiss Guard.
Yes, the Space Swiss Guard.
There we go.
That's the paint scheme, folks. It did not change in the thousands of years.
There we go. We'll definitely have to research that before we do the in-depth video.
No, we just did that video. Like, that's all there is to know about it.
No, there was one of the comments that explained that I think I was wrong in that I think there's the Space Pope and the regular Pope still. I think there was a split.
There's a Space Pope and an Earth Pope?
Yes, which means technically we're in the midst of a church heresy, I believe. I don't know which one constitutes the Dark Pope. I don't know nearly enough about Catholic mythology, and I'm not going to sit here and insult any Catholics that are watching this by just randomly bubbling my way through this.
Religious civil wars. Yay!
Oh,
Glad
man.
to see our history continues to repeat itself in
They
space.
still happen in BattleTech. That's what the Word of Blake was. They
Yes,
were
and that's why their era was the Jihad era.
literally the religious groups from literally the religious half of AT&T who worship Jerome Blake, the founder. So yeah. So anyway, that's what we've got to work with. So.
Here I thought futuristic religious wars were just Warhammer 40K.
No.
I don't know why, but
No,
that's just what I thought.
But that's one of the things I love about the BattleTech setting. You look at it, you're like, oh, surely people wouldn't be that stupid. Then you think, no, they are. It's not that far in the future. People are still that stupid. There's still lots and lots of mistakes being made, and very, very short-sighted, very much a lack of wisdom and foresight. Can't learn from mistakes, can't see mistakes coming. They're all too human, and that's what makes the setting great.
Bobby?
Is you understand the mistakes.
In BattleTech, there's a precedence for hidden societies in society, correct?
Yes.
Hidden forces.
Well,
Could you make a home brew faction. Most of them are going to be home brew, let's face it. Unless you really, really love a certain faction. Most of them are just going to be what you make. Could you make a Cameron Resurgent faction?
You could, and you potentially have canon basis for this as well.
I think it's one of the few tidbits I know about BattleTech lore. During the Emmerich coup, the last Cameron was murdered, his family was murdered. There was reports he had twin kids.
Yeah, there's
alternating reports of only one body was found of him, and then no body was found of him. And there was members of the Cameron Guard that were way off post, where a drop ship lifted off from where they were, and a jump ship got out of system.
There's that, and there's also another possibility. There's a woman, I believe her name is Jennifer Walters, is the name she went under, who Alexander Kerensky's like #1 guy was De Chevalier, if I'm recalling his name correctly, and he said that she was his daughter, but a lot of people believe that she wasn't his daughter and was in fact a Cameron in hiding. And then she winds up with one of the two Kerenskys, and so her DNA is in, at the very least, Clan Wolf, I believe. So you potentially have the Cameron DNA floating around in one or more of the clans, if that's true about her. So you could theoretically see a new heir produced.
So you could actually see like a secret faction in the clans that are just, yeah, we don't care about clan society, we've been playing along, we follow Cameron. Here's the bloodline of Cameron, here's our boss.
Yeah, you could see that. And in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there is actually one group I forgot. I'm sure there's other groups I've forgotten here that have popped up here and there. Around the time of the War of Reaving, there actually was a group within the clans that popped up. It was the Scientist caste that was known as the Society, who basically told the warriors, like, yeah, we're tired of, like, just making all these war machines for you and you guys being total idiots.
We want to make something that lets us grow more food for our people.
Well, I think they still wanted to make more battle mechs, just they wanted to be in charge.
Oh.
And they definitely built some, like, pretty impressive machines, but they were called the Society. So, and they did ultimately get put down.
I'm going to guess.
And several of the clans completely purged their Scientist caste after that, just to be sure.
I'm going to guess, even though they had really good battle mechs, they didn't really have anyone that was experienced in fighting.
Well, that was part of the problem. And, yeah, they didn't quite get through to the warriors that, like, hey, you know, we're the guys that, like,
maintain those things,
that,
right?
like, maintain the genetic stuff, right? So, anyway. So yeah, that's your massive overview, and this brings us to the end of part 1. So if you like what you heard, you know, this is the usual, you know, hit the like, subscribe, share it around,
and let us mark one of the few videos we have not gotten off track and rambled about something.
Yeah, I don't think we have.
No, everything was pretty on topic this time.
So yes, what you folks can't see is we have a giant board back behind you. Behind the camera that has all the topics on it.
Yes,
so we've been able to stay on topic.
Semi-scripted.
Yes.
I mean, I've had questions that have arisen through what Bobby said.
Well, right.
But they've been on topic.
Right. These, you know, we're basing these videos off ones that we like to watch, and some of those are more conversational.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, and you know, the questions help people remember parts that we didn't think to write down, like the Society, like Comstar, you know. So yes, if I were to show you this thing back behind you, the Comstar would be missing on it, I'm sad to say. So it's definitely a negligence on my part.
I have an idea, Bobby.
So
I'll tell you once the video's over.
Okay. So yeah, so you know the spiel. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. But especially
we appreciate everyone.
But especially comment.
Oh, we love those comments.
Because we try to answer them either in writing or in the videos themselves. I'm given to understand from a video I saw the other day that we now have the ability to record a short as a response to a comment. I have not tinkered with this, but apparently that's a thing now.
Well,
I don't know if we're going to do that, but apparently that's a thing.
record a short in response to a comment.
Yeah, but it will also like be a video in your catalog of videos. So the person we talk about was recommending, like, if you're going to do this, make sure it's something that like you're going to also want to put out and not just the answer, you know. So we're probably going to, for now,
So
stick
we
with,
can't do a short going no, or yeah, that sounds good.
well, I mean, we could, but you know, it's a matter of like the effort to do that versus the payoff. It's, you know, I mean, we could, but yeah. So, and then for this video in particular, factions you guys want to see, you know, let us know so we get time to read up on them, because
Ask for the Republic of Donegal.
because some of these, you know, we have surface level knowledge that they exist.
Like the Republic of Donegal.
Others, you know, we know a little bit more about. So it'll
Like
require
House Lao.
Like, yeah. Yeah, although I haven't actually read this one yet. I've really only
You
read
don't
through,
need to, folks.
I've really only read through the House Kirita one, which is super informative, by the way, and about half of this one. I've got to read through this one and the Davian and Steiner one still, so. But I do read some of the other source books. Like I said, the Operation Klondike and the Wars of Reagan, those were excellent. And the first Succession War book, you know what, we will do videos on those. Those are awesome. Well, I mean, they are. They're very well written. They're very informative. Like, and it really tells you a lot about the clans. Like the bookends, like the beginning of the clans and what may have been the end of the clans.
Yeah.
So, you know. So anyway, we'll be getting back with you shortly with some in-depth stuff. You know, mercenary factions,
Information.
or houses, or clans, or what have you.
Put requests out. We'll
Yeah.
go through the comments and keep track of what all's been requested.
And remember, so far, there is one request floating around out there, so if you don't want to see the Highlanders first, you better get on it.
Yep.
Because they're already ahead of you.
Oh, yeah.
So, we will catch you folks later.